All right. Peace, peace, people. My name is Jade, Kymani Jade for short, and you tuned into Calling on a Colleague. Don't be afraid to ask your homie for some help. I am an Artivist and educator, and Calling on a Colleague is my new live series hosted and produced by myself in conversation with everyday professionals, community leaders, organizers, and activists, delving into diverse topics on mental health. And with me today is my sister and best friend, HR professional, Sharrisse Gibson. How you doing? The crowd goes loud. How are you? How you doing this Sunday?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm all right. So Sharrisse is joining us with 12 years of experience in human resources.
Over 12 years.
Over 12 years of experience in human resources. As an HR generalist, she specializes in benefits administration, employee relations, and training and development. Today is episode 4 of Calling on a Colleague, and we're going to be exploring how to find work that works for you when you're living with a mental health challenge or challenges. Topics including mental health days, disability insurance, employee assistance programs, reasonable accommodations, and more, including tips for families and friends for people living with mental conditions. All right, so please remember, don't be afraid to leave your questions and comments, and we'll share them live with our community. I'll be dipping in and out of the comments box during the conversation, so please feel free to join us. So Sharrisse, you and I have known each other for over 22 years now. Do you want to share with our viewers how we met?
Sure. It was back in 97 or 98. We met in biology class, basically.
Yep. In class.
Yeah.
In Mrs. Samaru's class. And she hasn't let go of me ever since. She's been holding on for dear life.
Okay.
I'm the best thing that's ever happened to her. We wanted to have this conversation back in November, but everyone was sitting at the edge of their seats wanting to find out what would be the results of the elections. But most importantly, we wanted to have this conversation during open enrollment. And we know that open enrollment for the country is still open till December 15th. So you aren't really missing out that much just yet. Now, a lot of people have recently lost work or have been furloughed or left their jobs on their own in the wake of the pandemic. And we know that because of the pandemic, there's been a lot of conversations around mental health. It's really accelerated the destigmatization of mental illness and other conditions that we may be afflicted with beyond stress and anxiety. But of course, those topics as well. And because of this, we've been improving access to healthcare, especially in areas like the workplace. So professionals, essential workers, and students alike are benefiting from these increased conversations. And this is why I brought in human resources generalist and professional Sharrisse Gibson to talk to us about what our options are, whether you're an employee or you're unemployed. And that means whether you have insurance or you're uninsured or even underinsured. Today's conversation is going to provide options for you. So Sharrisse, what have you found to be the impact of employees' mental health in the company you're currently working with?
The impact has been difficult for most of my employees. Some of them have had to pack up their desks, their chairs, their computers, and kind of go home, work from home, and they've been working from home since March. Some of them miss, the person-to-person contact, having coffee in the morning with their coworkers, and just the employee engagement that HR offers to our employees, all of our monthly engagements and dinners and lunches and things of that nature. So as HR professionals, what we've tried to do is still kind of bring that engagement to them, but, via Zoom and other platforms, just to kind of let them know that we care, things like that. What we've also done is offered resources to them in the event that they needed to see someone, maybe seek some therapy. Some of them might be dealing with loneliness, Some of my employees live alone, and coming to work was exciting, and mingling was the brightest part of their day. Other employees are having a good time, at home, working from home. It's been convenient for them. But, each family, each employee has a different story. So we've just tried to cater to each person.
Right. So tell everyone what it is that you do exactly as an HR generalist. What does your role entail?
So as an HR generalist, I pretty much am the manager of a distribution center. I have about 430 employees, and I have a coordinator that I work closely with, and we basically tackle recruiting, staffing, development, employee engagement, employee relations. So I guess to break that down, we deal with hiring employees, bringing them on board, training them, making sure that they know their job and they're performing well, assist supervisors and managers in coaching and developing their employees, and making sure that we have a good onboarding system where our employees are successful. Employee relations, anytime there's an issue, an argument, a spat, or anything like that, I step in and maybe do an investigation if necessary. And things like that. Oh, and employee engagement. We do a lot of that. We try to do something, a themed activity each month to get everyone involved and engaged. So we break up the monotony of kind of just coming to work every day and having that one routine.
Well, we've got some comments. I see from my mother and your brother, Monica and Dwight. Dwight says, can I get a job? So mom says,
you can.
Mom says, hi, Sharrisse.
Hi, Mama, Monica. Yes, Dwight, you can get a job. Just go to our website and find whichever job you might be interested in, and please, submit your application and we'll review and get back to you.
All right. So as we talked about, a lot of people have lost employment. Others may be struggling within theirs, especially as we transition to remote learning, and we've also transitioned to virtual workplaces. Right. And a lot of us are trying to find work that works for them, right? Of the people living with mental health conditions, particularly mental illnesses and the severe type, over half of them are typically unemployed beyond the pandemic. According to Carrie Elizabeth, a psychotherapist and career counselor, we know that work enhances recovery and has many benefits, right? So you have income, sometimes large incomes that allow you to improve the quality of your life. You have increased independence, you're offered structure and routine. There's social connection, as you talked about. Right now, a lot of people are dealing with isolation, and work gives your life meaning and purpose. You feel that you're giving contribution to not only your workplace, but to society. Your self-esteem and your self-worth are oftentimes attached to your work, right? And it gives you the opportunity to use a variety of your skills, including your creativity. And most importantly, it reduces the focus on yourself and your problems, right? So right now, people are not only exploring new opportunities for employment, they're also thinking about self-employment as an option. One size does not fit all, right? So for someone like me who's living with bipolar 1 disorder, I would steer clear of night shift work, for example, or even on-call work that may shift my routine and schedule for the day. It's really important that when you're looking for work, that you're surveying and assessing your interests and values. One assessment that a lot of employers are using now is a DISC assessment that really talks about what your personality traits are and how that is linked to your behavior and how it may impact your role as a team member on site at your job. So I'm going to share a DISC assessment through crystalknows.com, and hopefully you'll take a moment to take the assessment on your own time. Sharrisse, does your company do assessments like these when hiring for employees?
Depending on the role, there might be an assessment. For our sellers, there is a sales assessment that has to be completed in order to be considered.
Right. Now,
but this assessment, sorry to cut you off, this assessment isn't based on personality. It's basically, your knowledge and ability when it comes to sales.
And you really want to take assessments like these to first acknowledge your limitations and also find a way to work around them, right? What roles would be best suited for your particular personality and the things that you love to do? What are your values and how do you approach work to find work that fits exactly that? You also want to think about, how does work fit with the rest of your life? There are options beyond self-employment and traditional employment. You can think of hybrid opportunities. Maybe you need to work 2 part-time jobs, or maybe you're working full-time and also working on a project for yourself, an entrepreneurial project that is. Now, if you're looking for opportunities to get back into the workplace, the workforce that is, and you're living with a mental health challenge, there are vocational rehabilitation options. One that's popular here in New York is the Access VR Adult Career and Continuing Ed Services. So I'm going to share that link for you in the comments as well. And remember, these links will be made available to you now during our live conversation as well as afterwards. In fact, before I forget, let me just go ahead and add these links to YouTube. Now, Access VR and other vocational services will give you an opportunity to find career coaches who will work alongside you to find work that meets your particular needs. And let's see, where did I? Just give me one moment. I want to make sure I post this for those of you on YouTube, and this is the personality assessment. There you go. And also the vocational rehabilitation services with Access VR. Again, this is here in New York, but you can always find services in your local area as well. Excuse me. And if you want to find out more in-depth information on how exactly to find work that works for you, particularly if you're living with a mental health condition, I invite you to check out Carrie Elizabeth's presentation on YouTube. So remember, the open enrollment period continues until December 15th. So please check out the marketplace if you're looking for supplemental insurance to go alongside your employee provided insurance, or if you're currently uninsured, you can find options there. If you want to find other opportunities that are available to you, resources for living, exactly, you can check out Aetna's website, which is Resources for Living, and I'll share that in the comments as well. But I want to learn a little bit more about what the healthcare coverage looks like for employers. So Sharrisse, can you tell me a little bit about why benefits are even important to research and acquire?
So benefits are important because you want to make sure that you're healthy. You know, if you have a family, if you have children, you want to make sure they're covered as well. And it's important to research which benefits or which tier benefits would be right for you. Most employers will offer a minimum of 2 premiums for medical insurance, maybe 3 or 4, and it's usually a low plan, a middle, and a high plan, which is going to be your more expensive plan. Most people go either one or 2 ways. They might go for the most expensive plan thinking, oh, it's the most expensive, it must be the best, and they don't realize that they might be wasting money or losing money because that's not the right plan for them. Or they might go with the cheapest plan thinking, well, it's the cheapest plan, I don't need insurance, I'm fine, I'm healthy, and they'll go with that. But it's important to read the benefit summaries for each plan and see what specific benefits they have to offer that would be great for you and your family. Yeah.
So a lot of times we're given information about insurance plans with all of these acronyms that we're not familiar with. The lingo we just don't know as everyday lay people, right? So you hear about HMOs and PPOs and so forth and so on. Can you tell me a little bit about what those are and what the differences are?
So your benefit premiums that are going to be offered to you are going to have high plans, low plans. They're going to have plans that are going to be in network, which means here are a list of doctors and providers in your area that if you go to them, you only pay the minimum cost. Then they're going to be out-of-network providers that says, hey, if you want this benefit, these doctors right here, they're going to cost a little bit more. So if you want to save, stay in this network, in layman's terms.
And what does HMO stand for?
I don't remember.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the flexible spending account. You're so silly. Can you tell us how it benefits someone like me, for example, and my family?
So a flexible spending account is a popular account that everyone should at least consider, and it has a couple of benefits. One of the benefits is it allows you to put aside pre-tax dollars towards your medical expenses. And the second great thing about this, it gives you the money that you have calculated that you would need for the entire year up front. So you basically tell flexible spending, hey, my kids need braces. I know I need to have surgery. All of my medical expenses for the year is roughly going to cost me about $2,000. You tell them I'd like $2,000. They go ahead and deduct $2,000 from your weekly income or biweekly income, but they break it down over a 12-month period. So this money is coming out of your check before taxes hit it, which means you'll be taxed at the end of the year on a lower dollar amount, but flexible spending will give you this money up front. So you don't have to save towards, those braces or dental surgery or whatever it is you need to take care of. Flexible spending will give you the money up front on a credit card. So you can take care of everything in January if you need to at the beginning of the year.
And a health savings account, how do they differ?
Okay, so the difference between a flexible spending account and a health savings account is that one account, you get the money that you are going to be provided up front, and the health savings account, it's money you're putting towards an account. So you only have the money that you actually put in. So each week, if your total amount for the year is going to be $2,000, you divide that by 12 or by 16, whatever your weekly or biweekly income is going to be. And that is the money that you'll have to use. So maybe by January, you've only contributed about 2 weeks worth of payments. Maybe that only gives you $100 in January. That's all you have to work with. But this health savings account also takes money from your weekly income pre-tax also, and this doubles as a savings account. Flexible spending accounts do not roll over. They may give you a cap on what you can roll over to the next year, but if you don't use it, you lose it. Whereas the health savings doubles as a savings account. You don't necessarily have to use it for medical, but you can keep it for retirement.
Oh, so if I leave my employer, can I keep my health savings account?
You can keep your health savings account.
Okay.
Now, because you get what you put in, it's real time. Now, your flexible spending, you leave your employer while you have a flexible spending account. If you don't spend the money before you leave, unfortunately, that money goes as well.
I think they give you like a grace period depending on the employer too, right?
They might.
Yeah. Okay. So what about FMLA? Can you tell us what that stands for?
So FMLA is Family Medical Leave Act, and it's an act. It is a practice that assists employees with job protection in the event that they have to miss work due to any medical issues. So whether that is to take care of yourself or to take care of a dependent or a spouse, family medical leave is something you can apply for through your employer, and they will offer you 12 weeks of job protection while you take care of whatever medical issues that you might have for you and your family. With this benefit, however, you will have to provide proof of this. There is paperwork that needs to be completed by yourself and the doctors in order for you to be approved.
So if my condition continues or my illness continues beyond the 3-month period, is there other options available to me?
Once the time frame of 12 weeks runs out with family medical leave, your employer should offer you or should put you on a short-term disability pending that your doctor agrees that you still need more than the time frame allotted, which is 12 weeks. At that point, you would go into short-term disability provided by the employer at no cost to you in most cases.
So how can someone get it without being on FMLA? And also, what does it even mean? What does it look like to be on disability insurance with your employer?
So most companies run their family medical leave and their short-term concurrent. It's not one or the other, because family medical leave is job protection for the sake of medical situations. So they'll run alongside each other. And once your 12-week runs out, you will no longer be on family medical leave. So that means essentially your job isn't protected, but you're still on short-term disability. And what you'll have to do to maintain that is making sure you keep in touch with your employer and you complete paperwork on time and have your doctors complete whatever information they need to ensure that you stay out when your dates are in line, so that there is no confusion where your job could be in question.
So could I actually lose my job, be terminated while I'm on short-term disability?
It depends. With short-term disability and termination of employment, it's going to be case by case. If you, the employee, do not submit paperwork on time, if you go MIA, or if the doctor says, hey, this person, Jane Doe is ready to come back to work on 12/15 and you don't show up, you could lose your job, because the employer is going to follow whatever your doctor says. So that is why the lines of communication between the employee and the employer need to be crystal clear. In the event there's a discrepancy between the doctor and the employee, that needs to be ironed out so that everyone's on the same page, so that there isn't a problem where you could possibly lose your job.
Okay. And we were talking a little bit about the different accounts that you can have. For those of us who have children, can you tell me what options are available?
Well, that takes us back to dependent care. So with flexible spending and healthcare savings, there's also dependent care. So if you have children and you have to pay for childcare services, your medical coverage will allow you to put aside pre-tax dollars again towards your dependent care expenses. The difference between this account and the other ones is that the dependent care account does not give you the money up front. So this gives you a tax break, but you're essentially paying double, because your money is coming out on the front end from your weekly or from your weekly or biweekly pay, and you are paying for your dependent care. So what this is a reimbursement. So the money that you would spend towards your dependent care would come out throughout the year, and at the end of the year, the company would reimburse you.
And what if I leave my job before the end of the year?
If you leave your job before the end of the year, the company will reimburse what it is. They'll reimburse up to what you've already spent. You'll have to provide receipts for that as well, that you've actually paid.
And are there any discounts that the employers provide to help you with your healthcare expenses?
No, there aren't any discounts, but some employers will say, we want our employees to be healthy. We want them to, invest in preventative care, right? We don't want you to, have aches and pains and then go to the doctor and find out you need to have emergency surgery. We want you to make sure that you get your checkups on time so that you'll be in good standing. And one of the things that employers will do is say, hey, if you get your annual physical, we'll give you a discount on your medical premiums if you do that. Or they might say, if you're a non-smoker, you get a credit for that as well. So they try to give you incentives because they want you to stay healthy.
So what would a discount on a medical premium look like? What does that mean?
That means if your monthly premium is $60, the company might say you get $10 off if you show proof that you've gotten your preventative care, which is your annual physical. And they will take that off for the remainder of the year.
Okay. And what other options are available to employees? For example, I've heard a lot about the EAP program, the Employee Assistance Program. Can you tell me how that works?
That's a great program, Kimberly. So, Kymani. Employee assistance programs, most companies, I'd say a good chunk of them offer employee assistance programs, and each employer is going to have a different program from the other. But basically, it is the company's way of saying, here are a few resources that'll be available to you, whether or not you choose our benefits, we still want to give you something. So this might be a third-party company that will help you source or find therapy or counseling for your individual therapy or couples counseling or even family counseling. Some may offer financial assistance or maybe a financial advice or guidance The same as well for legal care and advice and guidance. So, you know, this is part of the EAP. Each employer can kind of create what they want around employee assistance. So yeah, it's up to you to inquire. So when you're looking for a job, or if you're on the interview and you want to ask about benefits, you ask them for a benefits brochure, and then that way you can see what they have to offer.
Right. I know from using employee assistance in the past, my HR professional had actually shared the option with me, and I know that it's a short-term opportunity, at least as far as therapy goes. I think it's only about 12 weeks. Is that true?
Right. So it will depend. So as far as therapy goes, depending on your employer and the type of contracts they have with these providers, you might get 10 free sessions of, you know, individual therapy, couples therapy, or family counseling. And then from there, your insurance will then pick it up. Or they might say 3 free. The good thing about these employee assistance programs where they're third party is that you're not dealing with your HR person. You're not dealing with anyone at your job. It's a third party source, so you can be a little bit more transparent and open about what you need. They'll also help find specifically what you're looking for. So if you're looking for a therapist, you want them to be an African American woman and in this zip code. That person will be on the phone, find it for you. They'll give you a list of places that you can go to and find the best fit for you. I believe there's also a suicide hotline that's available too in the employee assistance program.
Yeah, thank you for that. And how about for employees? Because I see Dwight here had asked, and we have another comment coming up. Christoph says, come on, HR loopholes. Dwight asks, what kind of support do people with mental health have? So I know that reasonable accommodations, for example, is one of those supports. Can you tell us what that actually means? How do you acquire them? And what can it look like?
Great question, Dwight. So employees or persons with mental illness or mental disorders don't necessarily have to disclose it during the interview process or even after getting offered the job. However, if you find that you're having a flare up or you're experiencing some difficulties with your mental illness or disorder, depending on what that is, if it is impairing you from your performance or if it's causing a problem, you can go to your HR person and ask for a reasonable accommodation. So what that process is, the employee would request it, right? You say, hey, I'd like to request a reasonable accommodation. They give you the paperwork. There's a portion for you to complete, and there's a portion for your doctor to complete. So for example, if you are easily stressed, maybe you deal with anxiety and panic attacks, and you've been working 5 days a week, and that is the primary function of your job is to be at work 5 days a week. Your doctor says temporarily you need to be able to work from home at least 1 day a week, right? So that's the reasonable accommodation. The employer gets that information and they say, okay, is this something that we accommodate with this job and the job scope and description? Can we allow this employee to work 4 days a week? Is it going to be fair to our other employees? Can we accommodate it? If they decide that they can, they'll respond to you in writing that they can accommodate this. Of course, your doctor would identify a time frame of this, and then they would accommodate from there.
Okay. And what if you need accommodations permanently? Is that also available?
That is also available. Of course, the request is made in writing to your employer, and the employer responds in writing whether or not they can or cannot accommodate you.
Okay, thank you. So I've also added in the comments section some information about reasonable accommodations from the American Disabilities Act, the ADA, as well as EARN, which is, I see here, the Employer Assistance and Research Network and on disability inclusion. So these are additional resources that you can check out. Let me see here. Just want to make sure I'm leaving the information for our YouTubers.
While you do that, Kim, I will say that I think most employers now are getting hip to mental illness, right? And just mental health, period. So for example, my place of employment, we try to provide resources like we discussed so far with, counseling and therapy. and just guides on how to find ways to cope with work, ways to cope with isolation because of the pandemic. So this is good. This is a good thing. So if your employer is not sharing it with you, then always feel comfortable and find the courage to ask
for more information. So with that in mind, how do I even ask my employer for, let's say, a mental health day? And does this day impact my sick days, or is it separate? Can I just say, I need some time for my mental health?
I would tell you professionally that if you need a mental health day, that isn't something you need to disclose to your supervisor or HR person. If you need a day off, then request it through the avenues that they have already displayed or shared with you on like the request process. So you might have PTO, paid time off. Your employer may give you personal time, sick time, and vacation. Whatever combination they may offer you, whatever availability you have, then you request it. I wouldn't tell me you needed a mental health day. That's my personal opinion.
So that brings up the question of disclosure. If I do have a mental illness and I'm comfortable talking about it freely as I am, when do you suggest that I actually disclose this with my employer?
If your mental illness or disorder is not impacting your performance, I would not disclose it. I think it's important to disclose on a need basis. While employers are not allowed to, and it's against the law to discriminate against employees or persons with any disabilities, at the end of the day, those persons that hold those positions are human. And while they can't discriminate against you, you do not want there to be any bias, right? In the event that a scenario comes up. Now, if you do have to disclose it, go ahead and do so. If it's affecting your job, your job performance, if you need to say something because you need a reasonable accommodation, then go ahead and do so. But if nothing's going on and everything is fine, then everything is fine.
Okay. From what I understand as well, the American Disabilities Act protects you for any disability, so you don't actually even have to disclose until you may need reasonable accommodations. And what you were sharing with me earlier is you don't have to identify what your particular disability is.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so I've shared some more information on Facebook and YouTube, specifically for those of us who have bipolar disorder, but I find that this information would be helpful for anyone experiencing mental health challenges. So if you want more in-depth tips, please check out this video. One thing, as Sharrisse was pointing out, is while there are rights for people with disabilities, you must keep in mind, though, that when you tell someone that you have a disability, they oftentimes begin to lean towards judging you because of that disability as opposed to judging you because of your performance. So it is truly a personal decision that you'll have to make on your own. There are pros and there are cons, so just be strategic about how you share that information. Now, if you enjoyed this particular episode so far, I want to invite you to check out episode 184 of the Therapy for Black Girls podcast. And it dives specifically into facts about therapy and insurance, not only for the employee, but also for therapists who are looking to be able to accept more clients with insurance, which, if you don't know, may be very difficult for them because they too have to foot a lot of expensive costs, especially when they're being audited by these insurance providers. So this information is helpful to all of us. So I'm going to share that information with you now.
I'll go ahead and add with the flexible spending account, that money that you get up front could go towards therapy. So if you're interested in therapy or haven't had it before, figure out what your copayment might be. Let's say your copayment is $30 and you might want to see the therapist twice a week, or you're not sure. Maybe you estimate how many times you would need to pay that copayment to determine what your total cost would be for flexible spending. That way you don't have to worry about whether you can afford it or not. You're getting a tax break, the money's already coming out, and the money is given to you up front so you can pay for your sessions with the flexible spending card.
Thank you. And there are plenty of options. If you can't pay for therapy out of pocket, like Sharrisse says, you have the short-term options with employee assistance programs. You can also go to university clinics who may provide pay scale opportunities for you. You can discuss those with the therapist themselves. They'll support you with the out-of-network costs, providing discounts for you, especially right now during the pandemic. And there are also options outside of individual therapy, including support groups, which are free, and group therapy options, which will give you the community feel that you're looking for if you're suffering a lot right now from loneliness and isolation. So please keep those options in mind. So we wanted to close out. I know we typically have over hour-long conversations, especially into the 2 hours recently, and we want to be mindful of your time. So what we wanted to do was really start thinking about what are some tips for friends and family who want to advocate for our loved ones who are living with mental health challenges. As I shared with you, Sharrisse and I have been best friends for 22 years. You may have checked out our recent Best Friends Tag video on my YouTube channel, which I'll share with you later on in the conversation. But Sharrisse, what kind of advice, what tips in particular would you offer friends and family supporting someone with mental illness?
I would say one tip is making sure that your friend or family member has a support system, whether that includes you or it's their friend group or whether it's medical professionals, making sure that they know they already have a set support system. Another tip is maybe you and your friend figuring out what are those signs when things are not okay and your friend might be experiencing some issues, so some buzzwords or safe words or flags that you guys can identify and then reach out to your support system and call for help.
Yeah. Personally, living with bipolar 1 disorder for 16 years now, it's been helpful for me to have an action plan. And action plans aren't something that you develop for yourself. You develop them in collaboration with your support group. And that can look like medical professionals alongside your friends and family. Like Sharrisse says, you want to be sure to be able to recognize what those symptoms are as they're coming, because sometimes you may not know yourself, but your family and your friends and your providers are going to be able to pick those things up much more readily than you would. And so you want to start thinking now about what your action plan would be. Just like a woman who is preparing for labor would have an action plan, or for many of us, especially in school systems, you prepare for fires. You want to think about what would you do if you had a mental health fire or crisis take place. What is your action plan? So keep that in mind as well. Now, I wanted to share with you some information from the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They do have many support groups, but they also provide a 90-minute seminar, including communication strategies and crisis planning for family and friends. So I'll share that with you now. And before you sign up for that, you can download an e-publication that they provide for free. So check that out. Sharrisse, can you share, and I really don't mind, an incident where I was experiencing a mental health crisis and you had to jump in, and what did you do?
Okay, I don't know.
Details, no pocket information, all that other stuff.
So I'll give 2 quick examples. So when I find that my communication with Kim has either stopped or haven't heard from her for a while, I might think that something is going on. So that's one sign. Then I might call her. If I don't get her, then I'll call her dad, or I'll call, a significant other and reach out to them and say, hey, have you heard? Have you?
I don't have too many of them, okay? Just so we're clear.
I'll contact her significant other and ask, have you heard from Kim? The last day I spoke to her was this day. I haven't heard from her. It's not like her. Or maybe if I'm speaking with Kim, we are speaking and she just seems a little zoned out. She's not responding as fast. She's kind of a little slow, a little sluggish. Maybe we're on FaceTime and she just doesn't seem like herself. I might ask some questions like, hey, how are you feeling? Have you slept last night? Have you taken your medication? And then based on those answers, it'll tell me what's going on. Is this just a regular day where you're just not in the mood to chat? Or are you being affected by something because you're not implementing, your day-to-day things to keep you straight? The last one is when Kim calls me Shay. So my name is Sharrisse, and I have other nicknames. You know, my family calls me Cher, you know, things like that. But when Kymani calls me Shea or Shea Butter, my spidey senses goes up, and I'm like, are you okay? Have you taken your medication? And she's like, what are you talking about, Shea Butter? Shea, I love you, or you know, things like that. Then I know something's up. And then, you know, from there, you know, I'll start the process again by contacting, you know, parents and loved ones to kind of check in on her.
It really is in those small details that you want to pick up. So living with a mood disorder, you may have elevated moods of happiness. Say it again. Say it again.
I said irritability.
As well as irritability, yes. And so for me, sometimes I just become more loving, you know. And Shea Butter was a name that I came up with several years ago when I was first diagnosed. I had made the connection, and I just, to this day, I call her Shea Butter even when I'm not having an episode, but she won't let that go. So there's that. So really, it is about paying attention to those nuances and those details about your friends and your family's personalities and those distinctions that are beginning to stand out. Well, everyone, this brings us to the end of our conversation. I did share some more information in the comment section for support groups for family and friends, as well as for yourself if you're living with mental health challenges. There is right now, NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, is providing a support group specifically for Black people. Black Minds Matter. Check that out. They meet every first and third Friday of the month, excluding holidays. And as always, family, thank you for helping us co-create communities of consciousness and care. Let's continue to grow, glow, and build together. Thank you, Christoph. He says thank you in the comments. I appreciate you for always showing up and being here. And I look forward to us having a conversation as well. Sharrisse, I love you. Thank you for your expertise. Thank you for your conversation, for your time, for your honesty, your brilliance, your transparency. I always appreciate spending time with you. And it's been a pleasure to have you and your voice here for our viewers. Those who are here today and now, and those who will be viewing later on in the future here on Facebook and also on YouTube, remember the conversation will live there for future reference. So thank you again, Sharrisse. Now,
thanks for having me.
Of course. And I wanted you to remember, you can follow me on all the socials at Kymani Jade and on YouTube at Kymani MJ. You can go ahead and just throw Kymani Jade into the search field on YouTube, and you can find my channel from there. I talk about so many different things, including some of the top Black women in the mental health fields who are killing the game right now. That's one of my past videos, so I'll share that for you to check out, as well as Sharrisse and mine's my best friend tag that we shot together over the Thanksgiving break. And yeah, I just invite you to stay tuned. We'll be having these conversations every week, every 2 weeks or so. So join us again. I thank you. Take care, everyone. Peace, peace.